Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi Live Nodding. In this episode, I want to share you a little setup using sphere chop nodes in Blender. So it's allowing you to basically assign materials into polygon face based on their separated islands. Okay, so it sounds simple, but it's not really. I'll show you. So we only have a single object in the scene, and this object is basically a ring, primitive objects, and I really have a lot of control over this ring. And while the ring itself have three different materials that's assigned randomly. Okay, so these objects have three different materials, so pink, green, and blue. And here I'm just randomizing the seed using frame, but I can just manually do it. And each of the separate island of the ring is being colorized or being assigned into using nodes. So this is actually kind of interesting. You definitely will encounter something like this in the future. So yeah, let's have a look how I did it. So I started with this ring, of course, ring objects, and I could make it more ring or less ring. So that's easy. And I have ways to scale the ring, and I can manipulate the exterior and interior radius of the ring, so we can actually have all sort of pattern or configurations for this. And I decided to give a material to each and every island. If I were to separate this guy, for example, if I duplicate it and then F3 and separate by loose parts, so I'm gonna end up with all this ring, right? And all this ring actually have material, and that's exactly what I'm doing here inside sphere chop add-on and sphere chop node 3, and I'm taking advantage of these nodes, separate parts into index, and then colorize based on the separated island. It sounds maybe not easy to understand, but once you get it, it's actually really powerful because you are doing some kind of separations, kind of assigning an index to each separate islands, and then using that data and assigning material. So there's this material index, and this is the materials that I'm assigning. Let's say if I were to add another material, give it a color. Okay, give it like orange. And now I specify, okay, I want this random number index, assigning it into our objects. So now we should have another extra materials. Okay, the other materials, I think I need to assign into viewport display. Okay. So now it's generating random numbers here, and based on those random number, using it as material index. So we end up with just a single object with multiple islands, but each one of them is assigned a face. I have this limited dissolve happening, so I join the mesh and use limited dissolve. It's so that it's keeping things simpler. If I get rid of the limited dissolve, I don't think it's gonna work. Let me check. So if I were to skip that limited dissolve, okay, in this case it actually works. If I'm not wrong, if I skip the mesh join, I have another example of this circle. So let me find it, circle spectrum. Okay, so in this case, it's very similar setup, except that I'm giving a color per material index. So, oh yeah, that's because of this level, I think. So the level matters. So I still have 3 different materials, but I'm assigning random color into each one of them, and I get this kind of interesting pattern. Maybe if I go back, and instead of level 2, I use level 1. And if I didn't use limited dissolve, yeah, I'm basically colorizing. Well, I'm not getting that pattern. Still merging it. Oh, maybe if I didn't use mesh join. And if I plug this like that, there you go. Now it's like 3 materials being assigned randomly to each and every phase. So there are 2 actually possible outcome from this. So this one, let me save it properly. This one is really assigning into the face of the polygon. And the other one, where I'm simply assigning into the island, each and separate islands of this ring. And that's because I'm using this limited dissolve, and then here, and so on and so on. Slightly confusing there, but yeah, if I get rid of use dissolve, it's gonna be different. Oh well, but anyway, the one that's doing the job is this, really the separate parts to index. That's actually very, very useful. So we can separate each polygon face into different island as an index, and then we can do something. Maybe in the future we can use this to do the vertex weighting for rigging, or also maybe for vertex coloring. I think vertex weighting is going to be really interesting if we can do that using nodes. So yeah, it's again, it's something that's complex, but it's become really simple because we are using this node setup. But yeah, hopefully this is useful. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.